Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 104 of Nostalgia Talk. I'm James, and before I get started, I just have some quick words I want to say. My latest guest, Dan Garza, you guys remember Dan? He was on Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock, Splash and Bubbles, among many other projects for Henson. He lives in Los Angeles, and almost immediately after we finished recording that show, the horrific events of the LA wildfires began. Every day we turn on the TV, we turn on the news, and we see what's been going on. People have lost their homes. People have had to evacuate. I've even had previous guests in LA who have had to evacuate. Those people's name I won't mention. That's their story to tell. But others are fine, just in case anybody was curious. But we are definitely thinking about you guys, whether you've been on the show or not. So hopefully everything gets better soon. So moving on from that, joining me for this episode of Nostalgia Talk, Megan Fahlenbock.
Yay! Hi, everyone.
Hello. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Megan is an actress who's mostly well known in the world of voiceover. She is best known for her role as Jen Masterson on 16, as well as Gwen on Total Drama. And I know that none of the listeners can see it, but I can. She's wearing a Gwen shirt. Playing the character for the whole Total Drama series, and also was the English voice of Eva Kant on I hope I'm saying this right, Diabolik?
Diabolik, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see. Diabolik. Okay.
Diabolik, yeah.
Okay, well, that's hilarious. So, Megan, welcome to Nostalgia Talk.
Thank you very much, James. Such an honor to be here. I love being a part of people's podcasts, and especially young people like you doing your thing and reminding the world of the characters that, we all played back in the day. And yeah, it's great. So much fun. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's go a little bit back in time. How did you first become interested in acting? Like acting in general? Because you've also done a lot of like live action stuff too that I didn't mention.
Yeah, I've been doing this a really long time. I really fell in love with acting, I would say, when I was in grade 6, and I played Peter Pan in my school play.
Ooh.
And I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I just knew that was that. And a couple of years later, I kind of got discovered in a store by a photographer, and who worked a lot with a modeling agency. And so it was kind of gateway into the world of acting, because I got involved in modeling. I was young. I was just a child model. I didn't do anything too fancy. I wasn't tall. I wasn't doing runway stuff, but I was just doing like print ads for, well, you're Canadian, so the Bay and Sears and Eaton's and Swatch watches. I did billboards. I did a lot of things. But I also did a lot of commercials, and that got me got me into the actor union that represents actors. So it sort of got me, made me legit a little bit, and just got me into the world of it. And I didn't want to be a model. That wasn't my passion, but it was good. It was a good way to make some money and just kind of see the world a little bit. But soon after, I continued doing theater, and then I got a TV and film agent. And I did my first movie when I was 16, live action. And then I was playing a Holocaust survivor. My head was shaved, came back to Canada. I shot it in Budapest, Hungary. It was an incredible experience. I lost a lot of grade 11 though, and I lost all my sciences because I was so far behind after shooting for so long that I was sort of unfortunate, because it sort of changed my trajectory. I wasn't sure at that point if I was going to be an actor forever. At a certain point, I sort of thought I wasn't going to be an actor. It just wasn't. I didn't want the job insecurity of being an actor. I sort of toggled between being a dreamer and also being very pragmatic. And being an artist isn't always necessarily the most pragmatic. But at the end of the day, I do believe you must dream and you must do what you're most passionate about. So off I went, away from the career for a bit. Just wanted to be a normal kid, get my education, be pragmatic. But then I found myself doing other things. I became a professional water skier, which took me kind of all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah, I was live. I
wish I mentioned that in the intro.
That's okay. We can go back and do it again if we must. But
For anybody
I
who
don't
doesn't
know.
know, Megan was also a professional water skier, which I just found
Yeah,
out moments ago.
yeah, so I did that all over. I did that in Italy, Germany, Montreal, Thailand for a couple of years. That I also did a live action stunt show when I lived in Thailand. So what's interesting is it had this performance. These are performance. It wasn't competition water skiing. It was performance water skiing. So I was doing shows, but on water. I have a very athletic background. So as well as, this theater thing that I love doing. And so anyway, while I was over there in my kind of early 20s, I'd graduated from like a big McGill University in Montreal,
Hmm.
and I did plays all through university. I always stuck to, like, I love theater, but I also love sports, and then I also kind of wanted to be an anthropologist. I had a lot of things. I also wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know. I didn't know I wanted to do, which is why after I did all that and I went traveling through India, I went to Bollywood, and I decided that while I was in Bollywood, I couldn't spend my life watching movies, and I felt like I was always going to regret not going after my dream, which is why I'm, now a dream coach, and because no regrets is the way to be. So I came back to Canada and started my career again as an actor. And then soon into that, people started, so the voice stuff. So I started doing, I was really only thinking in terms of live action and theater at that point. But people would say to me, you must do a lot of voice work. You have this really unique voice. And I was like, I've never even really thought about it. I wasn't one of those kids. I watched a lot of cartoons. Like, I was a 70s kid, and, we woke up and watched Saturday morning cartoons. That's what you did in the 70s. But I just hadn't thought in terms of that. So once I sort of put the spotlight on that and took a lot of classes and learned sort of the craft of it all, both commercial and animation, I felt I just dove headfirst, and it worked for me because there was something unique, I guess, about my voice that just kind of landed, and I was a good actor, so that's really what you need to be in animation. I always, I coach it now, so it's not really about the voice necessarily. It's more about it is a lot of acting. It involves a lot of acting. So yeah, and then the rest is history. So never look back.
So, do you remember the first ever voiceover gig that you ever did? Because you were talking about some of your earliest acting gigs, and then how that
Yes, I
when
know exactly. The
voiceover.
first gig I got was a
Okay.
voiceover for Palmolive Pots and Pans. That was my first voiceover commercial. And I was the announcer for this Palmolive commercial, and my first animated voice, I think, was on Braceface.
Okay.
I don't remember that as well. I
Hmm.
remember my Palmolive Pots and Pans session better than I remember my Braceface session. Although I do remember I did it at Nelvana, but I don't really remember the character very well, which is very odd. My memory is clearly very selective.
Well, speaking of Braceface, one of my previous guests was Katie Griffin. Katie, happy birthday, by the way,
Happy
if you
birthday,
are
Katie
listening.
Griffin! I was the first one to send her a happy birthday message this morning.
I
She's a
just
good
sent her
friend of
one.
mine.
I just sent her one before logging on here.
Yeah, I
Uh,
texted her at 8 a.m.
hmm. When she came on the show, we talked about Braceface, and she told me that she actually worked directly with Alicia Silverstone.
Very cool.
Did you?
Very cool. I did not.
Okay.
No. I don't remember who. I just remember I did not work with her.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yes, but that would have been interesting.
Hmm. So one of your earlier gigs was doing the English voice of Eva Kant on Diabolik, which I'm still going to have a hard time pronouncing. I've talked to voice actors who have done dubbing before, and like I can imagine how hard it is because it was recorded elsewhere and kind of done elsewhere, and then another person is putting their English voice into it. Like I saw the movie Spirited Away, and as I'm watching it, I'm kind of looking at the synchronization of it, and I'm like, okay, the English voice is a little bit off synchronizing wise, but that's because you got to keep up with the way that it's done. So, did you find dubbing more of a challenge compared to how traditional voice acting works?
Yeah, what I find about dubbing, because I also did one of the other shows I did quite a lot was gosh, what was it again? It's called Bakugan Brawlers.
Bakugan,
Bakugan.
yep.
Yeah, Bakugan. I played Jenny and Jules. I was Jenny from the Jenny and Jules trio. It's you know what, there's less freedom in dubbing, much less freedom. You have to you there's just a little window of time. You have to, it's just all about timing, getting your line in based on a barcode.
Hmm.
So that's what dubbing is. So it's challenging in that you have to get the timing right. It's I'd say there is some important there is performance there, but you lose a bit of your performance based on just trying to be fast and trying to match they don't match the lips, right? Because
Hmm.
it's dubbed in all the different languages. So anyway, there's something, I don't know, it's sort of easy in some ways because you can't be as creative. Not that I think being creative is hard, but there's just less
Yeah,
thought into
one of
it,
the things that I've noticed about the anime dubbing voice actors, in particular, again with Spirited Away, is that I'm like super new to the world of anime. Like I go to HalCon every year, and
Cool.
they got anime outfits everywhere.
Oh
It
yeah.
was all like completely new to me, but it did get me to that was kind of what got me to want to watch Spirited Away and also Howl's Moving Castle, and really analyze it from the point of view of my own filmmaking brain. And one of the things I noticed when it comes to the dubbing, when you talk about not being creative with voices, people look at voice acting as, oh, I can come up with a voice. Okay, but can you come up with a seriousness as to how you can portray that voice? And I noticed with Spirited Away that the actors are just using their real voices to play the characters.
Yeah, and I mean, people do that. I definitely use my real voice lots. I'm not one of those voice actors that has a massive vocal range. Like we all come with our set of our toolbox, and I will be, I don't have a massive range. I'm not a great singer, as we know from what season of Total Drama Island was it when my voice director just lambasted me and told me I was the worst singer ever.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was nice. I know. She didn't have the best bedside manners, maybe, but I get
Constructive
that direct.
criticism.
I get that. Yeah, there's constructive criticism, and it's tough being a director sometimes. And I was also working with a character, Lindsay, who's voiced by, um, bring the name up for me. My recall is terrible.
I'm gonna look it up
She's a
on
famous
Total
singer. Yeah,
Drama.
look it up for me. She's amazing. She's a singer, and I just saw a post of hers, and I'm blanking on her name right now. But she has an incredible voice. She's a professional singer, so she helped actually all of us with singing. But they ended up having me scat
So the
more.
character's name was Lindsay.
I think so.
I'm
Yeah.
on it right now. Stephanie Ann Mills. Is that
No,
correct?
that wasn't Lynn.
Okay.
That was Lindsay, but then it was the other character. Who's another one of the? It was Lindsay, not Heather.
Hmm.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I gotta be
Oh,
totally honest.
Emily Claire Barlow.
Okay,
That's the name.
I gotta be honest. Until researching for this, I hadn't seen Total Drama in a
Oh,
very,
okay.
very
Yeah, so
long
you're not.
time.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. And I haven't, I'm glad we're in the same boat. So you won't be maybe as specific with your questions because I don't remember every single episode either. But Emily Claire Barlow, sorry, Emily, I just blanked on your name, but she is just an incredible singer. And don't even know why I thought she played Lindsay there. That it's been a long time, right? We've gone
Hmm.
on to do many, many things since then. So, and that's a problem in our business. We meet new people every single day, and it's just the Rolodex of names. Some people are really good at it. Again, another one of my Achilles heels, not my best, not my strong suit, just like my vocal range. But again, leading back to it's my acting. So often it is my voice, but a little bit tweaked. So I can sort of make my voice sound a little bit younger, a little bit older, and then different energy, different vibes, and all that kind of stuff. But it is, there's an energy shift. I wouldn't say it's exactly my speaking voice when I do animation. There's an energy that you need to bring to voiceover acting, just to pop it. I use my own voice for commercials.
Hmm.
That is definitely my speaking voice. But then my characters are just a little bit different. but they're not so different like some people who have amazing vocal ranges and they've voiced 150 characters and they all sound different. That is not me.
The first show I ever worked on once I got out of film school, I think I mentioned this to you, it's just a little short form series, but because it was such a small crew, I've shared this story on the podcast before, but because it was such a small crew, and everybody got to do a little bit of everything, it's like, all right, James, you do camera, Vivian, you're sound, we'll have you assist Jock, the director, on camera right here. He can just pop something into the frame and then he'll shoot it from an angle. And in addition to that, there was one episode we were shooting where they were going to animate a ghost in the live action scenes, and they asked the production assistants, can somebody just do what's called a scratch voice, like a temporary track.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so
scratch
I read
track.
Yeah. So I read the script in my head, and I'm hearing the ghost voice very ominously. And then I looked at the producer, Luke. I was like, hey, Luke, is there any chance that maybe I could do this character like on the thing? And they talked it over and they were like, okay. And in the sound test, instead of doing it in a studio, we did it live because, again, it was live action. There were kids that were going to respond to this ghost, and they were just going to animate the ghost in later. And so they put a mic over my head, and the director says, okay, James, just talking to the mic. And I went in the mic. He wanted me to do the ghost voice, but he didn't tell me that. And I went in imitating Judge Judy. And they looked at me, they're like, that's hilarious, do the ghost like that. And I'm like, I'm not playing Judge Judy, do this character.
Oh, that is so funny. But they loved it. So
like,
you had to go with it.
I literally went in, is not an answer. And I did a little bit of ad-libbing that she would do, like, do we understand each other? Perfect.
That's a very interesting approach to it. That, you know what? Because people would not expect that.
Oh, yeah, a ghost with a Brooklyn accent.
That is very funny. Very funny, James. Good for you. Congrats. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As you were talking about using your own voice when it comes to certain characters, instantly I thought of Jen, because as I'm hearing you talk, I'm hearing Jen.
Jen really is the most me in so many ways.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you end up getting that role?
So audition just like everyone else, and when the audition came on my desk, or through probably would have come through the fax machine at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, this character is written for me. She's sporty, she's good at school, she likes school, she's, you know, a little bit type A, well, quite type, maybe more type A than I am. Anyway, everything about her was me. But don't get me wrong, like other characters have come across my desk or through the fax machine or in the computer.
Especially now these days.
Yeah, now these days. That's they come through the inbox on the email. Back in the day when we had the fax machine. Anyway, there've been many times that I've auditioned for characters that are so me, and I do not get them, but I guess it worked. It worked out. And it may not have hurt that when I went into the audition, I realized I knew the writer and the producer from Fresh TV. Yeah, Jennifer Perch. We had been childhood friends, or our parents were friends. And so we knew each other from way back when. So we had that sort of camaraderie, and she and I played tennis. So that character is actually based on her. Jennifer Perch is Jen. And Jen and I were a lot alike. So maybe there was a bit of maybe that was my first Nepo baby experience, you know, sort of, and nepotism at its finest.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you said that Jen is a lot like you, because as 16 out of all of the shows that I mentioned in the intro, that was the one I watched a lot of when I was younger and watched more of getting ready for this. And
amazing.
And
let's talk Jen Masterson.
And I kind of noticed that that show is very, for one thing, it was very diverse in the way that all the characters were from different nationalities. You know, Jen's Irish, Jude is Jewish. What was it?
Nikki Wong. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get some of the characters mixed up occasionally.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Me too. Okay. We're good. I can work with that.
Yeah. The best way I remember it, 3 girls, 3 boys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's easiest. Yeah.
But they were all like so diverse in their own way.
Yeah.
So I felt like it identified with people on that level because like I met a couple of months ago, I met Dr. Loretta Long, who played Susan on Sesame Street for 50 years.
Oh my gosh.
There were a lot
of what a treat.
She was doing a Zoom chat. It was kind of like open discussion. Anybody who wanted to come in could come in. And
cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And,
I'd do that with you sometime.
Well, listeners, what would you say to doing a Nostalgia Talk open chat? I'm kidding. So Megan's in. So with 16, something that Dr. Loretta had brought up was that she and Matt Robinson, who were the original Gordon, people saw themselves on TV. And I think the same can be said with 16, with it being more mixed, kind of like
there was a lot about the diversity really helped with that, as well as I think they were just very relatable, right? Did you know that show was kind of based on Friends, right? Like the live action Friends.
It's now that I'm thinking about 3 girls, 3 boys, I'm picturing that in my mind. And yeah, it is a lot like Friends. I never thought of that.
Yeah, Caitlin, Jen, Nikki, Jonesy, Jude, and Wyatt are the 6 characters.
Thank you.
So yeah. And
the only reason that I remember Jonesy is, for one, the unusual name Jonesy. Well, not unusual, original. And the other thing was that he was somewhat related to Jen. And the other thing that really helped me remember that was there was one episode where she had a crush on a boy named Smithy, and everyone's like, that sounds exactly like Jonesy. Admit it. You've got a Jonesy for Jonesy.
Oh, right. The Jonesy for Jonesy one. That's funny. Yes. Admit it. And I'm still very close with Jonesy and Nikki, actually. We see each other a lot, and which is great. And we are very, we have that history together and from being in the booth. And sort of a fun fact about 16, since that was one of your favorite shows, and the relatability of it. So the first season that we did it, we would record all of us in the booth at the same time, which would take a long time. And just so you know, based on sort of the ACTRA contract, we are technically only able to work for 4 hours. Like our sessions are based on, like our rate is based on a 4-hour voice session, and we would often go way over because we were so chit chatty and silly in the booth. And so but they loved it. Like they loved us, the 4 of us, for that first season, just to really gel and bond. And we did. The 6 of us really, we loved each other, and we had a great time together, and we'd have so much fun. We learned from each other, and we laughed together. We cried together. We laughed mostly. There was not a lot of crying back then. Maybe the last episode there was a lot of crying. And we were all in the booth for that too. But after the first season, they really didn't put us in the booth very often together. They made it much more economical for them and sort of separated us. No, you two aren't working together. No, we got to be, they would just bring whoever was sort of predominant in scenes. They would bring 2 of us in if we worked a lot. Depending on like if the characters worked a lot. But yeah, that was very much kind of my voice, but just energized, like I said. So the character popped, and yeah, it was easy. I felt like it was written for me.
Great.
Yeah, it was great. That was the dream. I was living the dream back then. Yes.
Awesome.
And then we all went on to have babies and doing, I think at some point, so I was definitely pregnant by the end of, the shooting of or recording of that. And I think Christian had already had a baby by then. I can't remember if Wyatt had, I think Nikki's voice over actor, Stacey had not had a baby yet. And same with Jonesy's, but I was pregnant for a lot of those. Yeah, it was great. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the other thing that I feel like a lot of people relate to when it comes to 16 is that when teenagers get to be that age, they often do strive for independence. And in the case of 16, the whole group is getting their first ever part-time jobs. And it really does focus mostly on that. Like, I don't think there's ever been a scene with them at school. And like,
No.
yeah, and like I've written teen scripts before, and most of those take place in school settings, mostly because
Yeah.
I was 16 when I realized that film was what I wanted to do. And
Cool.
yeah, so I identify well with that. But no, with 16, it's them gaining their own independence, and that's literally the only thing that we see. So when it comes to particular moments from that show, were there any that you related to, or that were favorites of yours because you related to them?
Well, I think there's so many that I related to moments in the show. I mean, definitely kind of the boy craziness that
Mm-hmm.
Jen was. Jen was so boy crazy. And just all that awkwardness and boy, there's so many different. There's a great scene where, yeah, she doesn't get why I think it was the coach's son. It may have been the coach's son. I can't remember if it was Coach Halder's son. And
Like
she had this big,
coach the boss at the store.
yeah, the
He
penalty
definitely talked like
box.
a coach.
Yeah, yeah,
Masterson.
Jamie. Yeah, Masterson. He was also Ron
I can't say
Renticott.
I've ever had a boss who ever called me Nobes. So
No, I know. Well, that was such a funny thing. And James
yeah,
Watson is such a lovely human. He played the voice of the Ron Rent-A-Cop as well. But his son, I think I had a big crush on, and I didn't know why, but the son wouldn't even look at me. And Jen was just like, I don't get it. What's wrong with me? Like, I'm cool. I snowboard. I shred. I do all these things. And then I go to see him. I decide, I get myself all pumped up by the gang at the Lemon. Of course, we always hang out at the Lemon. And I'm like, I'm going to go ask him why I think his name was Corey, but maybe it wasn't Corey, because Corey, I think, remember the sniper? Remember the episode where the paintball? Anyway,
I saw a description of that.
yeah. Anyway, so I go over to, I can't remember. Maybe he just worked at the penalty box. Anyway,
I love that
I
that was the
walk,
name of the store, the
yeah, the
penalty
penalty
box.
box. I know, it's hilarious. So I walk over to him, like, James or whatever his name was. Now I'm using your name, but I don't know if it was James.
I'll take it.
And then suddenly he's like, "Oh, hey, Jen, this is my girlfriend, Cheryl." I'm like, "Oh, you have a girlfriend. Hey, guys, she has a girlfriend. That's why. So I'm not a total loser after all. I had a girlfriend." Anyway, it's very funny. Very, very funny. So yeah, that was very relatable to me. And there was a lot of little things. Oh, remember the five-finger discount?
I was just thinking about that one actually.
Yeah, that's an interesting episode where it is so not Jen. But what I loved about it, like I thought it was such a great episode for people to and parents. I had a lot of parents over the years when I did a lot of conventions like Comic Cons and fan expos and stuff like
Right.
that. Which I'll be getting back into. I've just been a super busy hockey mom. So I decided I have to be a mom and be around my kids and support them. So I put on a different hat on the weekends a lot. And, but I do want to get back to Comic Cons and being a part of my fans and stuff again. So I look forward to doing that. But, I used to have a lot of parents like thanking me for, the lessons that 16 taught, and they
Hmm.
just felt like it wasn't irritating to listen to. They liked it because it wasn't irritating. They liked the lessons. They liked that it delved into very uncomfortable subject matter that was sometimes harder for their teenagers to talk to them about. So it was like we addressed sort of awkward things that their teenager could sort of understand through the show. And yeah, so that five-finger discount, so not Jen, but aren't we, that's a human thing. Like sometimes we do things that aren't consistent with who we are. Or
Yeah, whether it's like trying to be cool to impress others.
great example,
Yeah.
or yeah, whatever it is, like, drink, when we don't want to drink, drink to fit in, or like we make stupid choices when we're kids, just because
Hmm.
we're figuring it out. Hopefully those not so smart choices don't end up being more detrimental than just,
Hmm.
don't ever do that. Hopefully we learn our lesson the easy way,
Hmm.
like hopefully it's not, jail for life or death or,
Yeah.
horrible, something awful like that. And it's just, whatever, a slap on the wrist or, give back the jacket or whatever it is. And,
Yeah, I do love
let
that
that
Jen
be a
ended up
warning.
doing the right thing by not only
Yes.
returning the jacket but also admitting to her drill sergeant type boss, and she was expecting like, oh no, I'm nervous for what he's going to do. He was just like, oh well, you were nice enough to return it, and you were responsible enough to do that.
Right, which is great because she did do the right thing in the end and she was accountable and she apologized and good for them to making it, we don't always have to be, heavy penal, have a heavy penalty every time, it was great. It was really well done. And yeah, it was a great show. Great show. I could talk about it all day.
There was one I saw this weekend while I was researching for this where Jonesy had accidentally seen Jen.
Woo! The towel.
Yeah. And I remember watching it. I'm like, how is this for kids?
Oh, I know. There were quite a few things.
Or the one where Nikki's hat said ass man because it meant to say assistant manager.
Oh yeah, there were quite a few things, and there was that one. We talked about it actually. Terry and I, who's the voice of Jonesy, we were talking about the peephole in the girls' dressing room.
Oh.
Like there are things that just don't stand the test of time, right? Like it's like, how did we not?
See, I was nothing like any of those kids on 16. I have to be completely honest.
No, who would you have related to?
Good question.
Like maybe none of them.
I was never really the kind of person who would party in high school.
Yeah.
And a lot of, and like I said, the kids on 16, they were trying to kind of striving for their own independence to sometimes a very extreme point. My idea of a night in at that time would be just watching 90s shows or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Yeah, they definitely had more of an innocence. I don't think they delved into anything like partying.
Yeah.
Right? There was no partying on that show, was there? Was there a little bit?
Not to my knowledge.
I guess it was assumed that Jude was a pothead.
Yes, that one I remember.
It was sort of assumed that he was kind of the stoner because he kind of played like the sort of trope or archetype of the stoner or something like that, right?
I think so.
Sort of. The surfer guy.
I mean, Jude did have that kind of persona, like really
there was
cool,
that vibe, right?
Yeah, kind of like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
A little Shaggy from Scooby-Doo for sure. But other than that, there was none of that. No partying. Like it was pretty good, clean fun. It was pretty clean.
Mm-hmm.
But then they had.
But I mean, like
things.
With peer pressure in general, like because there were like we said with Five Finger Discount episode, there were episodes that delved really heavily into peer pressure. I never got wrapped up in any of those things when I was that age.
Yeah. But a lot of kids do. And, you were definitely maybe one. So you'd be playing the character that, we'd write you in as the character that is the more innocent one that doesn't do that. And that's great. And I think there are a lot of kids like you. And I think it's great. I have one. I have one of those kids. And I think
that's nice.
Fabulous. That's the way to go. I was not that kid. I was much more rebellious, but I made it. I survived.
Speaking of rebellious or rebellious looking type, that kind of makes me wonder about Gwen in Total Drama. And Gwen, like from what I'm seeing now of Total Drama, Gwen's a little badass.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. She probably is more of a badass than that show is just more edgy to begin with. And
I thought 16 was the edgy one.
Yeah, it's funny. Do you know a fun fact about 16? They did that episode where all the girls were menstruating at the same time.
Oh,
do you remember that episode?
I think I saw it listed as I was researching for this.
Yeah, it got banned from the States. Because, we don't talk about what more than 50% of the population does.
Well, thank God it's a Canadian show.
But we wanted to go to the States. It would have been bigger, but they weren't ready for it. We were ahead of our time. But isn't that lame? That was like, we don't talk about that. Oh man, like that's the taboo subject matter. What bodies do. Right?
And it's not, I mean, I know that this is not a political show, but now it's becoming more of a matter of a talking matter these days.
Well, so much is right,
Yeah.
especially based on, recent election results, etc.
That was a well-put way of describing that.
And this whole your body, my choice, quote unquote, horrible thing that seems to be going around. And hopefully kids, you don't really subscribe or prescribe, I don't even know which word to use there, to that notion. But anyway, yes, which not to be so political, but I think with the body, we do think that human bodies, what the human bodies do, that is we all get that, right? That's just what we do. It's too bad that it was so taboo. But yet, what flew was voyeurism and peepholes in the girls' change room.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
Like, right? Like that flew, and then also the dropping of the towel, like you were just talking about.
Yeah, that one surprised me.
Yeah, there were a few things like that were like, oh, that's okay, that's PG enough for you, but God forbid we talk about a girl having her period. Mm-hmm. Ah! You're out of there.
Yeah, really. So with total drama, So first
Gwen.
of all, I love the relationship between Gwen and Bridget. Like Bridget's the more innocent, cheery looking character, and Gwen's like very goth.
And the surfer girl.
Mm-hmm.
She is. Yeah, Gwen, I don't know. There's a lot of things around Gwen. A lot of different people sort of identified with Gwen for a lot of different reasons. I think her being a bit more introverted was really good. Like a lot of my fan base are definitely Gwen, like a lot of Gwen fans, definitely 16 fans as well. But I think a lot of kids really liked Gwen because she wasn't they could relate to her and her not being as, just being a bit more of an introvert, not necessarily a goth girl. I've heard both, like that she was thought of as a goth girl and also as emo, or, they're different. I don't know. It is what it is. I think, whatever people got from it that's what art is. Art is like whatever you get from art, whether it's a picture on a painting, or voice acting, or a cartoon, or a show, or a movie, or it's how you respond to it. And people really responded amazingly to Gwen, and I think a lot of it was she was just relatable to them. She was a little quieter, she did a lot of writing, she's a little bit more thoughtful and mindful, and not so rah rah. She didn't have, but she did develop, she got really into it, and she definitely had a very competitive edge. But she did have her, like, she still had a little bit of boy craziness to her. Like, she was looking for love in all the wrong places. And, there's the whole Gwunkin and Gwent debate. That is hilarious. And, but yeah, a little bit different, very different from Jen, but similarly voiced, right?
That's right.
My voice is a little, but then you can hear, like, the voice is similar, but different based on the acting. Yeah.
So how did you get that role?
Well, that was also done the same fresh people. So we all auditioned. We were all thrown into the, I live in Toronto. It's a big, once you're sort of in the voiceover scene, we just audition for everything. We all audition for everything. Everything Katie Griffin has auditioned for, I have auditioned for. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like they either want her voice or my, it's like Stephanie Mills, everybody from Total Drama, everyone from 16. We all audition for all the same things. So that's kind of how we do it. We all have an agent. Some of us have the same agent, and our agents submit us for all the stuff that's going on. And we all go into the audition room and audition and they decide who, our agents submit us for the roles they think that we are right for.
And so was Gwen one of those for you?
Yeah.
And Jen as well?
And Jen as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I auditioned for Jen. I auditioned for Gwen. I may have auditioned for a few other characters.
Okay. That was what I was wondering.
Yeah, I think I did. I auditioned for a few other characters, and that's where they landed on me for. So, yeah, lucky me. Mm-hmm. It was great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, that dynamic between Bridget and Gwen, because they're so different from each other, like Bridget being the cool kind of surfer girl and Gwen being emo, but at the same time she did have a heart. She just chose who to be open with.
Oh yeah, and who she could trust. I think there was a lot of trust issues there. Mm-hmm. I would say, which is good. That's something that a lot of kids have, right? Mm-hmm. They don't know who to trust. So I think that was another reason why Gwen was so relatable. And I think there's it was a much more high horizon show, TDI, but it was still because there were so many characters
And there's so many
All,
versions of it too.
and so many versions of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, people really
Absolutely.
do love it.
Yeah, they really do. And they get upset by all the iterations, actually, all the versions and the change of characters.
Yeah, because I remember when I was watching it as Total Drama Island, and then there was Total Drama Island the movie, and then it became Total Drama Camp, I think it was.
Yeah, there were a lot in Total Drama World Tour, and there were many, many seasons.
Hmm.
And then I didn't make the cut for Total Drama Rama.
Ah,
But I
damn.
did. I did it first, and then I got fired for they wanted a younger voice. It's not really a firing. There's all this like, why'd you get fired? It wasn't really a firing. It was just were going in another way, and it had nothing to do with the producers. The producers, Tom and Jen, wanted me very badly, and everybody got it. Everybody wanted the OG cast to play the characters. It's just what it is. It's that welcome to the wonderful world of being an artist. It's business, not personal, and there's not a lot of loyalty, and you just have to have a very thick skin and on to the next, and no hard feelings. So that's how I keep going. And now I'm very happily working with a lot of my fans who really
Oh,
wanted, yeah. So that's what I do now. A lot of if I'm not working on something, or I'm working on things all the time, but I'm also, as an actor, we're also between work a lot. But I became a life coach, and then I'm also an acting and voiceover coach, and I use my life coaching to sort of complement my voice practice. And a lot of my fans want to be voice actors too. So I coach them, and they want to make a difference the way, we made a difference in their lives. That's why a lot of kids come to me. Some of the kids that come to me are 70 years old. So everyone who comes to me is a kid in my books. And there's something very childlike, about being a voiceover actor and just being an actor in general. You just having a childlike quality, really just being very open-minded, and you've got to be silly and goofy, right? You have to, it really helps if you don't get embarrassed all that easily when you aren't perfect. It's very imperfect. So you have to get used to that and trying things and falling flat in your face and getting back up. And sometimes, not, and the auditions not working out. There's a lot of auditioning, and you just don't hear anything. That's how it goes. The rejection comes in the form of silence.
yeah, really. Like one time I put my name in for a commercial and didn't hear anything. And then the strikes happened. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just have to wait and see what happens with all of this. And then I
Yeah.
had to make a run to the very place that I put my name in for the commercial for. And I actually kind of forgot about it at that point. And they were filming it.
Oh, wow. That is rubbing salt into the
That is ice
wound.
cold.
Ouch. Ow. Oh,
Damn
James, I'm
right.
sorry.
That's
But
all
you know
right.
what? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I always tell my clients is you can't make your goal booking the job. You can make your goal being a voiceover actor, or being an actor, or but you can't make your goal booking the gig, because you can't control that. So you're setting yourself up for failure. You can't control the booking. What you can control, though, is having an awesome audition. You can control working your butt off to become really good and versatile, and learning the craft and working the craft, and maybe learning all sorts of accents to make yourself really diverse and unique and all the rest of it. And just learning stuff, being great at being the best you can be at what you got. But you cannot make the goal booking the gig, because that's out of your control.
Right.
Those are my 2 cents. That's my unsolicited advice to anyone who wants to become a voiceover actor or
Megan
an actor.
Fahlenbock, the motivational speaker, everybody.
Oh yeah, always, always. That's my favorite place.
So, voice actor, voice coach, voice director, professional water skier, which I didn't know about until now, and now motivational speaker. Jack of all
Woo!
trades.
She really can have it all. Thank you, James Nobes.
A plus on getting my last name pronounced correctly.
How do people pronounce it sometimes?
I've heard it Nobies. I've heard Knob.
Ouch. Yeah, mine gets butchered too. It's move on, Fahlenbock, for anyone who really wants to know. No.
I wish I knew that before I started
Fahlenbock.
recording.
Yeah, right? Megan Fahlenbock.
Well, that's all I've got here. Is there anything you want to say to wrap up?
Just, James, thank you for reaching out. So I love it when young people go out and go after what they want to do. This is great. I thank you for remembering those of us who are, in between jobs again. And I love a good trip down memory lane. And you know where to find me if we do that group chat one of these days.
Yeah, well, sometimes I do what's called Nostalgia Talk bonus, and there are times now that's kind of done like not just as a generic interview like this is, but there are times when I have a subject in mind that I want to look back on, and occasionally I've thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool to get some previous guests involved in talking about this with me? Like I did one where I had two previous guests back on individually. And that was a lot of fun. So who knows? Maybe one day if I come across a 16 episode that is really significant in the world and I want to do a look back on it, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could bring Jonesy and Nikki on as well.
That would be fun. Yeah,
that'd be really cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. So keep on keeping on, James.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. And to everyone listening, I will see you for the next Nostalgia Talk. And until then, peace out.
Peace out.